This conference will now be recorded.
So first 3 weeks we are going to understand about the Aura, and after that we are going to understand about the LWC, Lightning Web Components. So straightforward, I think if I start with one of the requirement and when I explain the complex components, I think people are struggling. Okay, so this time, so I want to start from very basics. So each and every topic with the very small examples I'm going to explain. Maybe first 1 week we are going to understand all the basics with the simple examples. So later I take requirements and in project how exactly we work. So we take some complex requirements and work on those requirements by developing these Aura components. Okay, so that is the plan. So I think are able to hear me properly, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if you are not able to hear, I think there is a problem with your maybe with your laptop or something. Please check that. Okay, so now straightforward. So let's see. I think some of you already. Is anyone joining newly who did not attend my previous training?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you are joining newly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So I need to maybe consider everyone and again start from basics. Maybe as part of the development, already I explained about the basics, but still maybe I need to explain. Okay, so first, so why Aura? Okay, so already we have Visual Force pages. Visual Force pages are there from long time. So why Salesforce introduced Aura? Okay, so basically Aura is introduced in 2014 by Salesforce. 2014, I think December. So that time Salesforce introduced Aura. One of the main reason why they introduced in that year, Salesforce introduced Lightning experience. Previously, the look and feel of the Salesforce was very different. Now, whatever that look and feel we are calling as Salesforce Classic, but Salesforce introduced a Lightning experience in 2014 to match with the framework, whatever internally used by Salesforce to develop the Lightning experience. So the same framework, if there is a requirement to develop the custom screens, so custom UI, so we have to make use of this Aura and develop the UI to match with the Lightning experience internal framework. Okay, so the main thing is about the framework. It's not about the look and feel. Okay, even for Visual Force pages also, we can apply the same look and feel of the Lightning experience. Okay, maybe let me open. So one of the account and show you. Already you know Lightning experience and the classic. So the main thing, not only the look and feel, the internal framework, the way how the UI will be displayed. So the way internally the logic will be executed. In terms of the framework, there is a difference when compared to Visual Force. So in general, in Visual Force, when you see Visual Force, if you want to develop UI, the each and every screen in the Visual Force should be a different page. So let's say when you develop an application with 5 pages, we have to create the 5 different pages. Yeah, any questions? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, please stay on mute. Yeah, so Visual Force, if you are developing the Visual Force page, the UI, whatever the UI logic, it might be the Apex tags, whatever we use. or the HTML tags. So everything in the same Visual Force space we keep, and also the JavaScript or whatever we write, also we include in the same file. Maybe the CSS. So everything. So by default we have to write in the same page, or maybe if you write the JavaScript separately, you need to refer and use that. But each and every screen is a different page. So this Visual Force page is like page centric. That means each and every screen what we develop is a page. So for each and every screen we create as a page and connect those pages using buttons and links like that. So such kind of framework. And also by default browser cannot understand Visual Force. Whenever you try to see the result of the Visual Force, every time system will send the Visual Force markup to Salesforce server and convert that into HTML and display on the browser. That's what will happen. But so now the framework of the Aura. So mostly to avoid interacting with the server again and again. So most of the logic will be executed at client side. That means when compared to Visual Force, in Aura we write more JavaScript logic, and most of the logic execute at client side, means within the browser the logic will be executed only when there is a need to interact with the Salesforce database. For example, reading the data from the Salesforce database. Maybe if you want to update the data in the Salesforce database, only in those situations we make the Apex server calls. Otherwise, in rest of the situations, the most of the logic we write at client side within the JavaScript. So such kind of framework, so that the performance is more better because it won't more rely on the server, less number of server calls and more performance when compared to Visual Force. Okay, so that's the concept of Aura. So maybe here I am saying Aura. Previously, when it was started, we use it to call as Lightning components and Lightning applications. So later, when Salesforce introduced LWC, we call that as Lightning Web Components. Lightning components and Lightning Web Components sounds with the same, looks like both are sounding in the same way. That's why people started calling Lightning components and Lightning applications as Aura components and Aura applications. Okay, so still all you need to understand, in some places, for example, to create the Lightning components, we use developer console, or the other way is using VS Code. So only the possibility to create the Aura is using developer console or using VS Code, right? So directly from setup, creating the Lightning components is not possible. Okay, those kind of things we should know. So when you say you know about Lightning component, right, this is very basic thing. So Lightning components we cannot create from setup area, right? We can only create from the developer console or from VS Code. So in developer console, when you see, if you see here, you are seeing as Lightning application, Lightning component, Lightning interface. Same thing if you see in the VS Code, right here, let's say I want to create. So here you'll see as Aura components, Aura application, Aura event, like that. Here when you search, if you search for Lightning component, you don't see Lightning component, right? So maybe in this tool, Salesforce showing as Aura component and Aura application. In developer console, it is showing as Lightning application and Lightning component. But what we need to understand, both is same, both are same. Either Aura component or Lightning component, meaning is same. Okay, so just understand. And also the internal framework for this Aura component it follows. So Aura open source framework developed by Salesforce. Okay, so Salesforce, they are providing open source Aura framework. For this Lightning components, Salesforce, they are using their own open source framework, whatever they develop. Okay, so when we start creating the component, you will see some of the elements with the Aura namespace, because internally Salesforce is using Aura open source framework for the Lightning components and Lightning applications development. Okay, so just so understand these points. Okay, so understand this, and also maybe when you register for the developer edition account nowadays, Salesforce is automatically creating the custom domain like this, right? But when you deal with sandboxes and all, maybe you see your URL as cs17.salesforce.com like that. So those are the generic URLs. So when you don't have the my domain, basically nowadays when you register for the developer edition account, Salesforce is automatically creating the my domain, right? Automatically Salesforce is creating the my domain, and you see that name here. So but when you deal with the sandboxes and all, you don't see my domain automatically created. So we have to create the custom domain. Okay, maybe for you, maybe to understand. So I'm trying to log into one of the sandbox. Just to show you, I think in this sandbox, if you see the URL of this sandbox, cs114.lightning.post.com, right? This is not a unique domain name for this company. Okay, so maybe some other client, that client sandbox also in the same server. For them also the URL is same. Okay, so when there is a generic domain like this, even though you create the Lightning component and Lightning applications, the Lightning components we cannot use until we have the custom domain created. Okay, so somehow when you join in a project, so already if the my domain is not there, so what you need to do? If you see the URL, you will get to know. Okay, we should not see the server name. Right? If you see here, you are seeing this is the name of the domain. Right? So what we need to do? We need to go to my domain. In our sandbox, we need to go to my domain. So same thing applies for production also, right? But without taking proper approvals, so blindly creating a my domain and working is dangerous. Okay, so before you enable the my domain, so check with your team and check with everyone. If everyone is fine, so then only it is better to create the my domain. So otherwise, don't create. Okay, so that's the recommendation. So anyway, to proceed, maybe in sandbox you don't find many issues. Anyway, sandbox can be refreshed, but especially when you enable in production, you need to intimate everyone and make sure that we have the approval. And finally, we need to create the my domain. Okay, so this is required. So here, all you need to do, so give the name of the company, whatever the company, the client you work. So give that name, and so check that, and if it is available, right? So it is saying that already it is taken, right? Maybe I can give some other name. Okay, I'm just checking. Okay, so now it is available. You can register, right? Just I'm showing, but now in my sandbox I am not going to enable. Just I'm showing. just all you need to do, register domain and activate. Okay, then so smoothly you can work with the Lightning component. Okay, that is this point. Okay, so my domain is one of the prerequisite to work with the Aura components and Aura applications. Okay, so the next thing, so let's create the Aura component and see. So when you create the Aura component, it is not going to create only one file. Okay, so it is going to create a bundle. When you create the Aura component, right? We also call as Lightning component. It generates a bundle with 8 files. Okay, it's not that all the files for sure we have to generate and write some logic. Out of all these 8 files, only the first file, the UI file, is required. All remaining files are optional. Okay. Same thing, we have Aura application bundle. When you create that, you will see 8 files. So what is that one file is not present in the Aura application? I'll show you. Okay, to understand this, so we need to create one of the Aura component, right? So for now, maybe for first few examples, I'm going to create in our account. Maybe I'm going to register for one of the new account. So in that account, I'm going to create one component and show you, and slowly we understand the basics. Okay, so sign up for the new account. Sign up, and I need some name. Here I'm giving us some name I need, and I'm giving my email address, giving the role as developer. So maybe company name will be generated in the URL, right? So here I'm giving as, I think 96, right? So 96. So because while generating the custom domain in the URL, I want to see batch 96. In general, this place is for the company name. But here I'm choosing country and some postal code and the name. I'm giving the username like this. Okay, so sign up. Okay, so now it will take few minutes, right? So it will take few minutes to generate. So meanwhile, so when you create the Lightning component in the bundle, so what are the 8 files you see? Okay, so let's say you are creating a component with the name, let's say sample. Okay, so the first file sample.cmp, right? This is the file for the UI. So whatever the UI logic you want to write, you need to write in that. Right? After that, you also see one of the files generated with the name sample controller.js. Here we write the JavaScript, right? And also you see one more file generated, sample helper.js. Here also we write the JavaScript. So why 2 times they are giving? Slowly I'm going to explain. Okay, for now just I'm explaining. So in the bundle, what are the different files we see? Slowly we discuss the basics and understand about all the files which are present in the bundle, right? We call as files or maybe resources of the bundle. Each and every file we also call as resource or file like that. Okay, and also sample.css. Here we write the styles logic, right? And also here we give one of the file is Aura doc. In the documentation, so when we deal with the Lightning components, so basically in the component library, there are many standard components available. Okay, so in general, we need to bookmark one of the website called Lightning Component Library. So in this Lightning Component Library, all the standard components provided by Salesforce, PC Aura, there are different namespaces, and all these are the standard components provided by Salesforce. Okay, so here we can also show our custom component, whatever we develop. Okay, so for example, if I open button, right, this is one of the standard component. So if you use like this, how it looks like this. So all these are there, right? So all these are the standard components. Now in the documentation, how it is looking, right? So how they're explaining about different attributes available. This example, you are seeing the UI, and also you are seeing the JS logic. Same way, when we create our component details also we can present like this. Okay, so for this Aura top, so this will be useful. Okay, so maybe for you to bookmark, you need to bookmark some of the websites. So one of the website is this Aura component library. So there, to present our component in a better way, this will be useful. Okay, so the next one, sample. So we also use one file. So there is a tool called App Builder. In order to show in the App Builder, we have designed one of the resource. Okay, maybe the naming convention. When we exactly create the component bundle, you will see. So we have one of the design resource. This design resource will be useful in the App Builder when you try to add the component to the Lightning home page or Lightning record page, like that. Okay, maybe when I show practically, you will understand, right? So in App Builder, to provide some of the attributes configurable, to provide configurable attributes in App Builder. So what is that attribute and all those things we'll see going forward. Okay, so this is one of the file, and also you see sample renderer.js. This is also a JavaScript file. So when the component is loaded, there is a default so execution order, right? If you want to interrupt the default whatever the function execution, if you want to override the default behavior, those kind of things we can do using the renderer.js. Okay, so when we take examples, you will understand clearly about that. So one more, sample.svg. This SVG, in general, when we create the component, by default, Salesforce assign thunder icon for our components. Instead of the default thunder icon, if you want to change the icon of the component, we use this SVG. Okay, so again, all these things in the App Builder, when we add, I will show you how exactly it looks. Okay, so this is the bundle. If you see in this bundle, so you see total 8 files. Okay, these are the files you see. So same thing for the application. So when you create the application, here it will be with app, and you will see all these files, but this file won't be the design, because we cannot use the Aura application inside the App Builder, okay, to modify the record page or home page. So we don't use the Aura application in that place. So that's why that resource is not there. we see only 7 files. This design file won't be there as part of the application. So this is the just a bundle structure when we create the Aura component. Okay. So now I think by this time, so the account might be created. I'm just checking. I got one email. Verify account. Here I'm keeping okay, so just I'm giving all these details. I'm going to create one bookmark here because I'll forget about this. To avoid that, I'm just creating one bookmark quickly. In URL itself, I'm keeping the username and password, and I'm going to hit this URL so that automatically it will be logged in. So going forward, instead of opening login.salesforce.com and providing username and password, I'll click this so that automatically it will be logged in. Okay, so I don't want to register my phone. Now this is our new account, and I'm going to provide access to this account to all of you. You can log in and access the code. Okay, so now for now, so what I want, so just don't want anything, close it. So now I want to open the developer console. First few components directly in the developer console I'll create. Later I will show you how we use the VS Code and how we bring those components and work, like similar to what we develop in our development. Okay. So now here, file, new, I'm creating one of the component. So one of the first example, so what I'm going to explain, because I want to really start from each and every basic small components only we are going to create and understand all different concepts. So later we take the requirements, how exactly we work in project and develop some of the components. So that's the plan. Okay, so first 1 week is understanding each and every feature of the Aura component. So first I want to create a component with the name, this one, and I want to explain about global value providers. Okay, so what exactly this will do and all those things I'll explain as part of this component. So for this, file, new, lightning component, I'm giving the name like this. So global value providers. About this concept I'm going to explain. So whatever I explain, I'll keep in this component. Okay. So now here, do you want to, where exactly you want to show this component? So all these are the interfaces. There are lightning interfaces. So all these interfaces will decide where exactly we use our component. Okay, so if you check this one, our component can be used as a tab. We can create the tab for our lightning component. If you check this one, so we can create the page, maybe home page, maybe in those pages we can use our component, whatever we create. If you want to use this in the record page, we check this one. So experience builder means communities, right? Digital experiences. Salesforce renamed communities to digital experiences, right? So in that case, if you want to use, we need to check this. This one is quick action. When we open a record on top, we see some buttons, right? Those are the quick actions. There, if you want to launch your component, that time we use this lightning quick action. So these are the different components available. Okay, so now, if you want to really show this component in those places, we can choose that and click on submit. So it is generated. Now if you see implements, so here similar to Apex classes, so here also the inheritance concept is there. Okay, so as part of the inheritance, if you observe, we can inherit multiple interfaces. In the same way, this Aura component is like a class, right? So we can inherit multiple interfaces, and all these are the standard interfaces, right? This is for the tab. If you inherit this interface, we can use this component as a tab. If you inherit this, you can use this component in the home page, app page, in those places. So, and due to this, it will make this component available in the record page. So all these are the interfaces. So where we see those interfaces in the component library, right? So for sure, it will be useful for you if you bookmark this website, component library. So here you also see the many standard interfaces provided by Salesforce, right? If you see here, all these are the interfaces. So now whatever we inherited, those are the some of the interfaces, right? Has record ID, app postable. All these are inherited here. That's what you are seeing. And also access is equal to global. We can also give public. So the purpose is even these lightning components can be used outside our Salesforce organization also. Okay, so we can package it and show on a third-party application also. So for that, this will be useful. But internally, when we use these components within the Salesforce organization, so you don't see much difference with this. Okay, that's about this. Only this is the resource. Out of this bundle, right side you are seeing 8 files. Out of these 8 files, only this first file is required. All other files are not required. Those are optional. Only this file is required and mandatory. If you see, even though you are seeing 8 resources here, it's not that those files are generated, right? Those files are not generated still. When you double click, that file will be generated, right? If I double click on this, so then this file is generated. Unless you don't generate, those won't be created, right? You will see only this file and this. The other things, if there is a need, you generate, otherwise no need to generate. Okay, it is like that. You just understand. Now I am not going to touch all those things. Slowly we are going to focus on those other things. Now on the UI file, so one of our concept is to understand the global value providers. So value providers means those are globally available. Those are by default provided by Salesforce. So all we need to do, we need to use that and maybe as per our requirement, we can utilize that feature. Okay. So one of the global value provider is $browser. Okay. The purpose of this one is, if you want to know when we open the Lightning component or Lightning application, if you want to know from which browser is that component is opened, from the desktop or tab or mobile, right? If you want to know, let's say I also want to know whether it is opened from Android OS or iPhone. So all those things can be detected by using this $browser, one of the global value provider. Okay, when you refer the documentation, As part of this, you will see different options, right? So form factor, when we use this, it will return whether the component is opened in the desktop or mobile. Okay, so like that. So I'm going to maybe refer this and show you how exactly it will work. Okay, now here to refer that dynamically, right? Anything dynamically, if you want to refer in the Aura, we use this dynamic expression like this, similar to Visual Force. In Visual Force, if you want to bind the dynamic variables, so we use this expression syntax, right? So inside that, you need to refer. So here, dollar browser, right? Form factor. It will return whether it is a desktop or not, right? So I'm using this. Either it will show desktop or mobile, right? But here one of the point is directly seeing the preview for the Aura component is not possible. Okay, so one of the way is you need to add this component on one of the application homepage. So not on the setup homepage, right? So you need to open one of the application. In the homepage, you need to add and see the preview. Or really, if you want to see the preview without adding anywhere, we can only see the preview through application. For Aura application, we can see the preview, but not for the component. So in general, so for us, right, in the development phase, quickly we want to see the preview and proceed with the development. So I'm creating one of the application just for testing purpose. I'm going to use this application for all our components, whatever we are going to develop, to see the preview quickly. Okay. So I'm creating this test app, and if you see the bundle for application, you are seeing only 7 files. Okay, so maybe here people are confusing because each bundle is having many different files. So when I switch, maybe people are confusing. Okay, so now if you see here, I'm clicking, this bundle is for global value providers component. Here if you see, you are seeing design, right? One of the resource. But here you don't see that design resource. Only that's the difference, but all other files will be there. Now, the advantage with the application is directly we can see the preview. If you see the preview, we click on preview, this application preview, right? So like this, you can see the preview of this application. Okay, now the component, whatever we are developing, if you want to include that in application and show the result of the component, we can refer. So basically within the application, we can add multiple components and show the result. Okay, so to refer the component, if there is no namespace created, in general, in the companies, when you work for a service-based company, we don't create any namespace. The default namespace is C:. So when we create namespace, let's say you are working for a product-based company and you are developing a app exchange application. So that time we create the namespaces in the organization. So whatever the namespace created, so we need to give that namespaces, right? You'll see something like this based on the package what we refer. Okay. So here the default namespace C:, and our component name global value providers. This is the component name, and I save it. Now if you see here, so you are seeing as desktop, right? So you are seeing that we are seeing this from the desktop. Okay. So now, so maybe it is very right. So far away, I want to little give padding and see somewhere here. Okay. So if you want to apply the styles, so when we are developing the UI, if you want to apply the styles, which are matching with the Lightning experience. So there is a website called Lightning Design System. So along with the component library, we also need to bookmark this website, Lightning Design System website. Okay. So copy this, and under our bookmarks, also bookmark this. Okay, frequently we refer this. Okay, here it is like a bootstrap. If some of you already, if you know about the developing HTML with other third-party frameworks, so bootstrap, it was there for a long time, and in general, someone work with UI, people use this bootstrap. It is a third-party CSS framework. So what they do, they develop all the styles and everything. All we need to do, we need to refer that style sheet, and to know how, let's say I want to refer a table, but how it looks, to know that they provide the examples and see how that will work and all those things. So by inspiring from that, so we can make use of that. So something like that. Okay, so in the same way here, so let's say icons, bootstrap icons. So all this, let's say if you want to refer this one. Okay, so how you need to refer. So all these things in the website they mention, and we have to refer. In the same way, in the same process, Salesforce is offering this Lightning Design System. Already all the styles and everything Salesforce defined. All we need to know how we can use. Okay, for example, left side if you see component blueprints. Okay, so now let's say I want to show the button which looks similar to the look and feel of the Lightning experience. When you click on that, right, these are the different buttons. And to get this style, right, what we need to use, if you see this is a style class, right? So if you use this style class, it will show like this. Okay, like this, we refer this Lightning Design System and apply the styles. It's very common when we do the development. We refer this Lightning Design System website, and also this website Lightning component libraries. So some of the elements by default Salesforce is offering as a standard component. We can make use of that component to do our job, to achieve the requirement. Okay, so slowly we are going to touch all these things, but bookmark these websites. Here one other thing, so I want some padding, right? If you don't know, so what are the styles we need to add for padding? So technically, it's impossible to remember all these styles, right? Because we need to remember many more other things. So we just frequently refer this and try to apply the pattern. So here, right, you need to see under utilities. Here, padding. Padding means it will give space from top, left. So like that, right? Top, padding from top, padding from left, padding around. So there are different options, right? And you will also see some of the examples here, right? Padding vertical. So all these things you can see. Padding top. Okay, so I want padding around, right? So let's say I'm giving this copy and go to this. Okay, so here go to our component. So this entire thing, whatever I am going to show, so I'm giving in div. Div is like a placeholder, right? So we are dividing this content to show here in div. Inside that, I'm keeping whatever logic I want. So to refer the style class, we use class and refer the class name. Okay, so here go to this one I want, copy this, Okay, so like this. So padding around. Now, so the thing is, this is not applied, right? So let's, yeah, one of the reason, one of the very important point. So the styles are not applied when you try to refer the component from the application. Okay, but when you add our component directly to one of the, maybe let's say if you are adding that to one of the application home page, or you are adding that component to one of the record page. So when you add like that, the styles are applied automatically. But when we try to refer the component through application, somehow the styles are not applied by default, right? Here, mostly people struggle. So while referring our component from the application, and if you want to apply the styles, so we have to inherit one of the standard component called, right? To inherit, I'm using extends force colon SLDS. So this will apply the styles. This will make sure to refer the style sheet and apply the styles. So that way now, if you see, you are seeing the padding, whatever I gave. Okay, now we are good. Okay, so now, so again, go back, and this is the component here, right? Mainly we are writing our logic. So form factor, and because we opened this component from the desktop, it is showing us desktop, right? Now click on inspect. So now what I want, really no need to open this component from the mobile or iPad. For us, having all the devices and doing development is very difficult. For that, in the browser, you will see here, if you see here, this part, here we can choose. We can say, when I see in the mobile how it looks, when we see in the tab how it looks, that we apply from here. Okay, so here, I'm just choosing that. Okay, so now it's like I want to see, if I see from iPhone, how it looks, right? Choosing, and one time we need to refresh. Okay, refresh after choosing, and maybe here we are not able to see and increasing. Now if you see this part, you are seeing this as phone, right? Because I'm just creating, like I'm choosing, if I see this component from iPhone, how it looks, right? So it is showing that we are seeing from the phone, right? So if you remove this and just refresh, right? Now this is a desktop mode. So like that, at runtime, so it will generate, so whether we are seeing, right? So from the browser, from which device we are seeing. So mainly the browser global value provider to know from which device we are seeing the component. Okay, there are few more attributes available for this. So one is, let's say I want to know is iPhone, or I can also say is phone. It will say true or false, right? In the same way, I want to know is it from Android device, Android. So I want to know is iPhone. So all these things I'm using. Now when you come back and refresh this, right? So already we included our component in this application. See, but everything it is showing in the same line. So maybe I want to see in different lines, right? Just for now to give the line break. So BR tag, this gives the line break. Here for all these things I'm giving line break. So that way you'll see everything is separated. Right now, maybe this is for what? So maybe to recognize for us, right? So which device we are seeing? Is it from iPhone? Is it Android? All these things just we are printing to know for us. So what exactly we are referring? Okay, so just like this or thing, right? So now when I change this, right, and I'm choosing a mobile, so just to refresh, and I'm increasing this. Okay, so now if you see, right, device phone is iPhone because I choose iPhone here. It is saying iPhone true. Android no false, right? So phone and iPhone both are becoming as true, right? So like that. So based on the device, all these things will control, and based on the device, if you want to generate your UI in a different way, so in those situations, this browser, one of the global value provider, will be useful. And also, if you want to refer this global value provider from the JavaScript, okay, how we do? I also want to show that. In general, the JavaScript logic we write in the controller.js. So this is a controller.js. And here, so the way how the function we create, maybe in Visual Force, if you want to create one of the JavaScript function, so how we work, maybe we give like this, right? So function name, this is the way, right? So now in Aura, whatever function now here, whatever you are seeing, this entire thing is an object, right? In JavaScript, to represent the object, we give like this. This is the object in the JavaScript. Okay. So name and value pair, right? Each and every property name, property value, right? So let's say, so here function, and whatever the function you want, you can also define the function and some logic we write, right? Comma, one more function. If you see, this is also like that. Okay. Here parameters, you can also supply parameters, and these brackets to enclose this as a global scope. So somehow this is the default syntax, right? All our functions we need to enclose in these brackets. This is the function name, function, and all these are the parameters. So the name you can give any name, but we have to follow the order, right? So in this function, the first place here, first parameter, whatever we refer, holds the component information. That means in the component, whatever the attributes are there, whatever the DOM means the HTML markup, whatever we write, all that information will be accessible through this parameter component, right? So the name can be anything. So mostly people don't like to refer this much, that we use the short forms like this. It's fine. You can give any name technically, okay? But this first parameter is to hold the information of the DOM here, the attributes information and everything. The second parameter, so when you do the JavaScript events like on click, on change, on mouse over, key up, key down. So for that, on which element you are doing that event, to capture such kind of information, this event will be useful. The name can be anything again. Some people they use only this, right? So it's like that. And helper. So we have one more resource where we write the JavaScript. To call that, this will be useful. So why again that is introduced by Salesforce? Slowly we'll understand. Okay. So that's about to understand the function, the skeleton part. So now, so what I want, so these global value providers. So this one, if you want to refer from the JavaScript, how we refer, I'm going to show you. So first of all, this function, when we are going to call, so what I'll do, so I'm going to maybe here define one method, right? So maybe in HTML, if you want to define a button, we use button and like that, right? Otherwise, we see input and type equal to button. But we have the framework elements. So when you go to Lightning component library, right? So here you'll see many framework elements, right? One of that is button, right? So we can copy from one of the style from here. You can copy, or if you want to type, you can also type. All we say Lightning colon. That's the namespace button, and this is to apply the style variant equal to brand style. It will apply. What is the label of the button? For now, I'll say do action. That's the name, right? So title, let's say I don't want, you can remove. So on click of the button, so what you want. So this is the dynamic expression. To call the controller JS, right? Whatever the controller JS function, if you want to call, we have to say C dot, here C means controller, JavaScript controller, dot the name of the function, right? So let's say here, so I'm giving this function name as do action, okay? Control as it will save. So now I'm going to call that do action. The meaning of this one is in that controller, we are calling this do action one of the function. So that's the meaning of that. Okay. So now on click on this button, it is going to call this. Now here, how to refer this, I'll show you. Right now, let's say I want to refer this and access that value. So here, if you want to access the global value provider, we have to give $A, right? This is the syntax, dot get, and you have to enclose this either in single quote or double quote. So this is the way, right? We have to enclose that inside this, and this will get the value, right? This is the way how we refer directly in the UI. This is the way how we can access the browser form factor from the JS logic. For now, I want to just print it and see, right? So I'll say console.log, and I'm just printing. Okay, so where exactly we see this, whatever we print? In the browser console, I'll show you. Right? But first of all, to call this action, to call that function, we need to click on this button, right? So just go back and just refresh. And if you see, you are seeing this button. So right click to see the console, right click inspect. So maybe remove this mobile mode. So go to console. Maybe if you want to clear the console, you can click on this and clear. Now, when I click on this one, if you see, you are seeing the desktop, right? In the same way, I also want to print. So what is the iPhone value and all those things, right? If you know one way of syntax, how we access, for remaining also same way. But here maybe I want to clearly know why I am printing. Right here I'll say device colon, so that while printing in the console, it will print like this, device colon space, and after that desktop mobile like that, right? So now in the same way, I also want to print is phone, that value. Okay, so now one of the way, right, here with this approach, when you are having a string and if you are appending with the one of the dynamic value, we use plus operator and try to concatenate. So one of the modern way is, instead of the single quote, you can use backtick, right? Backtick, which is under escape key. So when you use that one, so what will happen? So spaces and the string, all those things, no need to use plus symbol to append, right? So how I can do? So let's say is form, that's the string I want to print. So wherever the dynamic value, the JavaScript variable is there, so we need to use this dollar, this bracket, right? Inside that if you keep, okay. So what will happen? This is the JavaScript variable dynamic value, whatever you want. And again, if you want to give space, and you can type something, whatever you want, right? Something, whatever you want, that I can give. This is one of the modern way of using. So we call that technically as template text, right? Template text. Okay, so it is very easy to do that. So now if you see iPhone false, again I'm giving space and device. So no need to really give plus and all, right? So that's the purpose of that. In the same way, maybe the other things anyway, one way if you know, the other things easily we can do, right? So let's say is iPhone, is Android. So in the same way, how we refer the static resource, right? So how we refer the custom label. So those are the common things on day-to-day we do. Okay, so those things I think since we don't have more time, tomorrow we'll see. Okay, so again I'm clicking on do action. Now if you see device, desktop is iPhone, is phone, right? So it is giving us pass. Now we know in JavaScript how we access, and maybe here how we access. Okay, so this is very simple example, right? Slowly we'll try to take the requirements and work for that. So far, so any questions, anyone? So are you able to understand, or are you finding some difficulty? So any questions, let me know.
Srinu, in what website do we find the global value providers and their attributes?
Yeah, so you can see Aura component. You can search for $browser Aura, or you can maybe search for Lightning Aura documentation. Okay, so here, right, Lightning Aura component developer guide. Here you can find everything. Okay, or simply you can search for $browser, and here you'll see what are the available options. Okay, these are the available options. Okay.
Okay,
Is
thank
it,
you.
yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. For now, maybe these notes I'll share through email. Okay, after demo sessions, I'll provide access to this account, and you can log into this account and access the code. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.